What if an LLM could improve itself in terms of accuracy and repeatability the more you use it and the more complex tasks you give it to do? I guess this is a concept that I've been exploring lately. I put a little video out just showing some of the approaches I'm working with at the moment, where I'm going with it. So what I've done basically is built two new capabilities within Claude to help it improve itself over time. There's a skill improvement and a context usage estimator. So I'm going to explain these two elements. Okay, so if you are familiar with, I guess, the more important elements of designing out some of these new approaches, I guess the two big key points are I suppose the guardrails you need to build in, the instruction sets, the clarity and stuff of the instructions to give to the LLM to get repeatable results, but then also balancing that with how the context is being managed and used when a task has been executed. So these two skills are going to hopefully complement each other here in terms of improving how things are being done, and then also, I suppose, making the context usage as robust and streamlined as possible. So I'm going to start just with a quick example around the skill improvement and what that does, and then I'll show another quick example of the context usage approach. So you can see at the moment the skill improvement is disabled, and in normal use, as I'm using Claude on a kind of day-to-day basis, this improvement skill is going to be disabled. But in a scenario where I'm creating a new custom skill or I'm trying to optimize one that I've already built in the past, I can turn this feature on. And if I go to a chat now, I'm just going to, excuse me, I'm going to just set it up here so I can show you a quick example. So what I've been doing lately is building out something that kind of allows the LLM to build different flows in Node-RED, and just using this as an example of how this improvement skill works. So what I have prepared here is just a quick prompt to create something in Node-RED. I've chosen this one in particular because I know the Node-RED skill doesn't include any details around this chart node type. So when I run this prompt, Claude is going to try and build out what I've asked it to, but it's going to refer to the skill documentation for Node-RED that I've created myself. It's going to struggle a little bit here because it doesn't have any information on what a chart node is, and then it's going to recommend some improvements. So to show you Node-RED, yeah, so these are the different flows existing at the moment. So what I might do is give the prompt, let it run through the process, might speed up that part of the video and then explain at the end what's after happening. Okay, so Claude has finished through that process now. Right, let's go back to the start. I'll walk through this quick. I won't over explain it hopefully, so I'll just get into the important stuff. So what we'd asked it to do, yeah, created a flow, include this node or chart node. So the first thing that Claude did was it read the skill documentation that I had put together. And the idea with this is that it could figure out, based on some of the documentation instructions, how to build out things in a robust way, repeatable way. Because it doesn't have any information in this skill documentation about this chart node, it struggled a little bit. So it had to go into Node-RED, so use some of the MCP tools, so list tabs, get flows. It's kind of cycling through what's available to it to try and figure out what to do. It's even gone off and done some funny other MCP stuff there. Created the flow eventually. This is it here. And then as part of my skill documentation, I always get it to, in plain English, to explain what it's built. So these are the nodes, a little explanation of each of them, how to test what it's after building, etc. So that's all part of the normal Node-RED skill that I've built previously. The extra bit is the improvement element that I was kind of mentioning in this video. So this piece here is is only included when I have that improvement enabled in the capabilities. So what has it done? It's done this gap check. It's figured out that there is a gap in the skill. So the chart node is not documenting the skill at all. It's also then a couple of other nodes as well. So dashboard configuration nodes are not covered, chart configuration patterns. So basically it's saying these elements, if they were in the skill documentation for the Node-RED building, it would have helped it along the way. This flow used the UA. Okay, so it's just saying, would you like me to generate a proposal document of how to improve this Node-RED skill? So this is another little element of the improvement approach that I've sort of built into it. What I did was I created a folder structure on my local file system. allowed Claude access to this path, right? So Claude skill improvements. Um, so what it's asking is, do you want me to document the improvements that I recommend? So I'm going to say yes in this case. You don't have to. You can say no if you're not interested, and it wouldn't do anything. But let's say yes. Again, this might take a moment to work through, so I might speed this a little bit up again. But just, I guess, to explain the concept here, it could potentially, I could have engineered it in a way that it would go off and update the skill automatically, which it didn't want it to do. I want the whole human in the loop approach to apply here. So what I would like it to do is document its recommendations, put it into a file format that I can look at today, tomorrow, in a week's time, whenever I decide to do that. Review what it's after proposing, and then potentially implement it if I think it's a good idea. But I think that's one of the important pieces too. You can't trust the LLM to necessarily do the right thing. In this case, it can propose some changes, but there is a danger, I guess, that it can go off, propose some huge changes that'll have a big impact in terms of context, bloat, and stuff like this. So um, it's actually working its way through it kind of quicker than I expected. So I might just let this run through a little bit now. I'll give it a second. So it's created the first piece of information. Uh, okay, so it's completed the the file generation. It's created two different files. Yeah, the first one is a guidance file, and this is really just a summary of what it found. So issues encountered, some context, so what prompt was used at the time, and what it found certain nodes weren't included, etc. A bit more further information about what gaps it's seeing, missing patterns, etc. Some kind of summaries of the proposals and rationales, and then it's just pointed out which test case was met for the improvement. So the improvement skill that I have is 4 different test cases involved. So ambiguous instructions, missing edge cases, conflicting guidance, and false positives. So I was able to detect in this case this was a missing edge case or a gap in the skill itself. It needed to have some additional details in it for doing the actual building properly. Ambiguous instructions is if there was instructions but they were too vague, and a conflicting guidance might be if you've got a number of different instructions in the skill and they contradict each other. So these are the types of improvements that it can pick up on. The implementation guideline is the actual technical nuts and bolts of what it's saying to add to the skill. This is sort of quite long. You'll see it on the side, on the right hand side of the screen here. Really, really long kind of proposal. And this is the point where I said you don't want the LLM to go off and just automatically add all the proposed functionality to the skill, because you're no doubt going to add um, lots of different context bloat, etc., or maybe even lose a little bit of robustness and whatnot. Okay, so that's the improvement one. I'm going to do a very quick run through because time wise, I need to kind of get to the end of this, but the context usage skill. And again, for time wise, just to speed it up, I have a pre-made chat here just to kind of run through what it looks like. So I'm going to run a prompt, generate a trend of a product temperature over 15 minutes, and I've just added this extra piece there. Can you use the context tracking when executing this task? What this means is that extra sentence at the end is going to invoke this new context usage estimator skill. If you don't want to use it, you just don't put in that statement. So as you can see, Claude read the skill document for the context usage skill. Now that it knows what that means, it then enabled that context tracking for the chat. And what it's going to do is track every time there's a skill used, or MCP tool calls and responses, file operations, etc., etc. It's going to estimate the token usage each time. So you can see it ran through a number of MCP tool calls to get the data it needed to build out the trends, and it's just done an estimate for each MCP tool that it called. Then once it got all the data it needed, it knew it had to build out the actual trend visualization. But I actually have a separate custom skill that I built on how to build out trend visualizations, and that's the token usage for that one. Once it did that, it knew, right, start building it out. So it's building out the visualization, ran through that process successfully. And because I have my context usage enabled, it gave me this little summary at the end saying the skills that were used as part of the task consumed that amount of tokens, the MCP tool operations. Then, so it's saying individual tools were called and their token usages, and then the total, the MCP element of it. And then if for the Python generation HTML type of actions, these are the types of token usages. Again, estimates not accurate. Just the whole idea here is to shine a light on certain elements that maybe have high usage, and you can maybe optimize them if needed. So what I kind of went on from that point is I asked Claude then if would you say this token use is acceptable for the type of task that was completed, and are there any areas to reduce or optimize the token usage? So it did work through it again, and it just, I guess, is summarizing what actually was done in terms of the task. It's saying that the efficiency is actually quite good here. The template skill used to create the visualization saved massive amount of tokens compared to if I had to do it from scratch without any instructions. The skill selection was optimal because it had the right amount of information about the chart integration, the branding, interactive features, all that. MCP operations, everything that was called was needed, so there was no redundant calls needed or made. It just has some slight um, options there, but it's saying keep the current approach because you need to obviously balance robustness with token saving, and obviously it's saying the token saving suggestions it had would impact the robustness, so keep it as it is. So these are the concepts that I'm working on. Again, early days yet, maybe a little bit conceptual, and I need to sort of make sure that the approaches I'm using aren't too verbose and stuff like that. But let me know what you think of this type of approach or these types of approaches, and if you are aware of any other types of things out there that are maybe interesting that I could look into, I'd love to hear it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you again.